Hey y'all, it's the Taking the Stage with Kristian and Quo takeover. I'm waiting on my fabulous friend and co-host. So we'll just wait for y'all to come on in the room. Hello everyone. Hey Jordan. Hey Alex. Up, my homegirl's coming in the room. Come on in the room, Quo. Hey Quo.
Howdy. Hello. Let me sit up straight. Let me sit up straight.
I know, and
Hello,
act like I'm
everyone.
welcome, welcome. We'll wait for some more people to come on in the room.
I dig that.
Appreciate you tuning in.
Hello, everyone. Welcome
Come on in this
to
house.
what's the song? Actually,
I know. I'm old school. My parents used to say that when people come over, come on in this house, and then they make you eat. So it's a beautiful thing.
I don't know. So, like, right? How do you extend welcome and extend kind of gratitude and
Yep,
what that looks like in the form of food? Hey, Jordan. Jordan, say hey, Qua.
I know.
Hello, Jordan. I hope you are doing well.
That's Jordan.
All right. I think we can.
I think we can get started. I think we have enough people in the room joining us for right now, at least. Welcome everyone. I'm Christian Robert, Education Director at the Dallas Opera. I'm here with my fabulous colleague and co-host.
Quo Decia Johnson, Education and Company Culture Manager for the Dallas Opera.
And of course, we're coming to you live with another episode of Taking
Live.
Action.
And Quo. One of the things that we've started doing and one of the things we will continue to do is a land and people acknowledgement. And we do this not to place blame, right? These are all conditions that we have inherited, but we do this so that we have the opportunity, we have the ability to connect, we have the honor, we have the responsibility to make sure that we reduce harm, to make sure that we correct things that have taken place, and then to make sure that we do our best work to move forward together. So with that, I would like to acknowledge that Dallas is on stolen land. We are on the land of the Comanche. We are on the land of the Wichita and of the Caddo sovereign nations that were forcefully removed from their homes through policy that allowed for the forceful removal or by any means necessary. Nations that faced genocide so that others can come in and settle the land. This is exactly what happened here in Dallas. Dallas is not alone in this, as our entire nation was also a land that belonged to other nations. I also want to take the time to acknowledge that people were stolen from their homes and brought here to Dallas to build Dallas. So Dallas is on stolen land and it is created or built by stolen labor. And being a descendant of one of those individuals who were forcefully brought here, we want to be mindful of what that means as those stories continue with us. And then as we have the opportunity to create new stories or to extend that narrative into something that actually allows us to connect in truth and in honesty. So with that, I thank you for joining me for this land and people acknowledgement.
And of course, thank you for joining us today. Thank you to the Dallas Opera staff for your continued support. Shout out to David Lomeli.
Hey, David.
That's our
What's up,
friend, our boy, our brother. We appreciate you. We appreciate you all tuning in and your continued support. So, folks, let's talk about it today. If you have any questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat as we're going along. But let's talk about it right now. It's a little tense out there. Let's just be real.
Okay. It's a little tense.
A little tense. For multiple reasons, as if 2020 hadn't been harrowing enough. As if our organizations, we all know our organizations, and many of us have to shutter our doors and find new ways to engage with audiences, hence what we're doing right now in our communities and such. And there's been a lot. There's been a lot. There's been an awakening over the summer. We've seen a lot of things happening right now, and now we're into another gigantic event, and we're smack dab in the middle of it, waiting, essentially waiting to see what is going to happen. And so we did not want to do this show today without recognizing and understanding that we are coming to you in a time of even more attention. There's been plenty of tension to go around, but we did not want to come today and act like we didn't know what was going on out there. All right, Quo, so let's dive in a little bit, because one of the things that we have consistently and persistently said over and over again is that our work in this manner has to continue.
Yes.
And many people, I know there are a lot of questions right now as to what that's going to look like moving forward, but I want to emphasize that those of us who are working in communities and pivoting our organizations and having the tough conversations, and putting in the work and reaching out to different organizations and forming alliances with each other, and all of these things that we're doing as arts organizations, as a society right now, having the tough conversation. The frank answer is we're not going to stop. We can't stop. We must continue to do the work. We must continue to talk about business practices in our organizations as it relates to DEI. We must continue to have conversations about what that looks like on our stages and in our pits and in our dressing rooms and our administrative offices. That does not change. The way it looks going forward, well, I'll leave that up to experts like Quo as to what it looks like. But there's not one solid answer. I don't believe in one clear and cut answers, because this is a very nuanced thing, with a lot of history and a lot of layers to dig through. And we're not going to stop digging through the layers. Get your shovel.
Get your shovel. I would say that because of so much that has taken place with the pandemic and everything else that is going on, it is very important that we start to ask those real questions, that we start to ask those difficult questions, that we start to ask those questions that require more of us than we are willing to give when we jump into them, right? The questions that require us to stretch and to acknowledge and to grow. And as we are looking at so many circumstances that are taking place in our nation right now, right? In addition to where we are this week, as we look at these things, it's very important that we ask the real tough questions, and then that we are willing to seek the answers, knowing that they won't be immediate. We've said that before, especially as we're working to dismantle the system, especially as we're working to make sure we're relevant to all of our audiences, to our communities. These are very difficult things that will not just come just because we want them to, just because we hope it will, just because we expected everybody else to be on the same page as us. What we are now seeing more so than ever provides us with an opportunity to actually sit and say, what are we doing?
Yes.
Like, what are we doing? What are you doing? Why are we doing these things? For what purpose? For what reason? What is the motivation? What is the driving force behind the decisions that we make? And then truly, from where do they stem, right? Truly at the core, where is this? And is that an opportunity for me to connect with somebody else? Because I too am pulling my decisions from the same place, whether I acknowledge it or not. And In this episode, I titled it "We Have Work to Do" because we have work to do. We
There's a lot of
have
work to
lots
do.
of work to do, and work that is necessary individually.
Yes,
Organizations are made of people.
yes,
Organizations are made of people. So there's individual work that is necessary on our own account, and how we choose to do our work, why we choose to do our work, and then how we extend that to others going forward. So there is work to do,
yes,
and it's individual. There's work to do that is organizational. There's work to do that's institutional. There's work to do on a national level. And
yes,
so we have to sit and ask ourselves, what are you doing? Why? Truly, why? Is it from fear? Is it from misunderstanding? Is it from a place of greed? Is it from a place of wanting to connect? Is it from a place of wanting to correct others and not self?
mm-hmm.
There are very real questions that have to be asked as we move forward in who we are in our organizations, who we are in our nation, right? We want to
Yes,
get, we're on a national level right now, and
yeah,
what that means. So with that, and with the real questions that have to be asked, I encourage everyone to center those questions in conversation, to
yes,
practice listening in a way that allows you to carry space for others, but then to commit to work being done in a way that is productive. And sometimes that's not possible without actually asking the real questions of why are we here and what are we doing.
yeah. This tap dancing and tiptoeing around stuff not gonna go anywhere. Look. I'll be the comic relief if I need to today, but but this is it doesn't work. You know, there's
Mm,
been too much of that going on way too long, and I don't know how to say it any more clearer than that. Very clearly than that. Lord, my words are not coming to me today. Um, and that's saying something because I have the gift of gab. But I do want to echo Quo in that the why and the
why?
individual looking at self and the self-examination. And I'm talking about this is a deep dive. You know, why are we doing this? You know, what are we trying to create? What does it look like to create something that is going to look and feel different?
Yep.
All of these questions have to be asked and truly answered. There's no more of this, like I said, trying to just tap lightly around it. That's just it's not it doesn't work. And it's never been more evident than right now.
Yeah.
There is a glaring issue. And I want to make it very clear that we as arts organizations and we as artists, we have always somehow voiced ourselves, somehow, some way, to look at things in society that were a problem. Many musicians use their musicians, artists of all kinds, actually, composers, everything, have used their voices. But you know, we really, as artists, we have the privilege, you know, of, I mean, how hard do we have to examine ourselves in terms of physically what our voices are doing, checking that embouchure, all of those things. And so, or you, when you're studying a character and trying to get your heart and your head into that character and portraying them the way you need to portray them, we know what it is to examine character. Okay, we need to turn that same energy, keeping that same energy and
Yeah.
turn it into ourselves and in our organizations because um, you know we're gonna need it. You know, we're gonna need it because this is not an opera problem. This is a societal problem. And I don't know what else to say other than that. Like I know a lot of people are looking for answers, but who's asking the question? Are you asking them to yourself? And I'm saying this to myself too. I would never come on here and presume to preach a sermon that I'm not willing to take a big old hefty serving of myself.
No, preach
So
it, sir.
I just that's That's really all I have to say about that. I got
Mhm.
go Quo.
Oh, go close. Yep.
Go
Hey.
Quo. Hey, hey. Oh,
I think I think also it is in asking kind of those real questions. What are we doing, right? Because there's work to do. What is the work? What does that mean?
mhm.
What do we need to do? Why are we doing it? And then going from there. So much of this also lies on what we're doing in our organizations. Again, as you said, there's so much going on. There's so many things that are affecting just 2020 altogether. 2020 has been insane. And it is a matter of how we use this time to, like you say, examine self-examination, examine thyself, and how we use this time to be honest and to be vulnerable in a way that allows us to grow together. That is what is so necessary in what we're doing. That is what is necessary in art. That is what is necessary in making sure that we connect with communities. That is what is necessary in making sure that we have a culture within our organization that truly builds on prior conversations, right?
Yes,
And learn from each other in those conversations. You won't all agree. As we know, everybody's not going to completely agree. What do we agree on?
yes.
How do we center that?
And find those ways to connect before we start finding things to disagree on first. Because
And
that
even in
seems
what,
to be the tendency.
yeah, and then even in what do we agree on? And then how do we center that? And then how do we remove ourselves from it and leave it at the center?
Yeah,
So not our perspective on what we agree on, but we truly agree on this, right? We truly agree on this art form. Not the way it is presented, perhaps, not those who are doing the presentations, not those who are, but like, right. So how do we start there? And then how do we branch out in a way that requires that we shave certain things of ourselves away, or that we morph, or that we grow, so that we have this common understanding of what we need to do.
yeah,
Right. And all of that, even in talking in circles, in short, I'm just like, stop tripping.
yeah. Stop these things. What you say all the time, stop
Stop
these
these
things.
things. Stop these things. In short, stop tripping. We are seeing so many issues that are taking place in this nation right now. Like, stop tripping. That's kind of where we are.
It's
Yes,
clear as
we
day.
know. Right. Right. So, and I don't know how to no more tiptoe around it, right? And
No.
so, even that, it's a matter of stop tripping. Let us sit and find the reasons, right? The roots, as we talk about. Let's get to the root. Let's get to the core. All of the rest of the arguing and the bickering that has this whole effect that waves over the actual root. Now we're going straight to the core. Stop tripping. And in addition to that, listen in a way that allows us to understand perspective and understand historical context.
Yeah.
We had a conversation with Phil not too long ago in how you start to center, and then this is a part of practice anyway, in looking at impacts, of course, over intent, in which you start to center how the art actually affects others, or you start to center how your actions actually impact others. And if that was not the intention, then what do we do so that we can start to change that, so that we're clear about our intentions,
Yes.
right? It's so much that is built up on defensiveness. There's so many things that are built on power hoarding. There's so many things that are built on perfectionism. All of these culture norms that don't serve anyone,
No.
no one, because they're unrealistic, and it is not fair to you. It is not fair to others to have those types of expectations. So as we get to the point where we stop tripping and we actually sit and have conversations and we listen and we're honest about ourselves, about where we are in this work, where we are in our organizations, where our organizations are in the work, and then where we are as a nation, there are some things that will not be surprising. There's
No.
shock. There's like, oh
But there are things that are
no.
not shocking for those of us who have had to live it.
Or those who see it, or those who are skeptical, or those who don't want to have to see it but know it's there. And
Yeah.
all of those things are perfectly okay. It is a question of what do we do now, because we have work to do.
do we
Our
do
work does not
now?
stop. Our communities still need us. The art still needs to make sure that there are people who are stewards of it, who
Hmm.
are creators, who are administrators, who are sharers of the art. It still happens. It is still there, right? So we have work to do. Does not mean do not stop and pause. We've said that before in so
Hmm.
many different ways. Doesn't mean you don't get to stop and pause. But pause and reflect, pause and rest, and then pause and do something that's a bit uncomfortable, which requires some examination, and then do the work because we have work to do. So,
And the thing is that again, if there's ever any time that it is more evident, and I also want us to be careful about sitting in our own comfort zones. Um,
mm,
we have a tendency to mix up what self-care looks like versus comfort.
mm-hmm.
And self-care is very important. Let's not get it twisted. We want to make sure we're taking care of ourselves. You cannot pour from an empty cup. So please lay your head down and rest. Okay, but let's just be real about that. However, if you are using self-care as a disguise because you're uncomfortable about something that may be a new concept for you, but people are telling you that it's their lived experience, and other people are telling you they have witnessed this other person's lived experience, there's some self-examination that needs to go on. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
because I've seen a lot of that. I've seen a lot of people claiming self-care when in reality it's a reason to stick your head in the sand, and that gets us nowhere. I mean, it really doesn't get us anywhere, and it's not productive. And don't, I'm going to be very clear. You have to rest. You do need to rest, and I'm very clear at a time like this that make sure stay hydrated, taking your vitamins, all of those things that are necessary to take care of ourselves. But there's also comes a time where you have to get comfortable being uncomfortable. And I'm sorry, anybody that's ever walked on stage in a corset should be very
That's
familiar with this concept.
a whole other conversation about whether or not that's okay. But
Totally. But my point is this: you're familiar with the concept of having to sing beautifully under hot lights, all of these things. So, and I infuse humor in this for one reason, because I know it's tough right now. It's tough for me. I mean, I know it's tough for Quo. Like 2020 has not been an easy year at all. Um, but
it's
it
been
has been a
awesome.
year of it's been a year of wake up call.
Yeah. It's been a year of connection, a year to see the different parts of our humanity, the ways in which we do center connection, the ways in which we do center supporting one another, but also the ways in which our own kind of defense mechanism kicks in and starts to take a toll on others who are not able to protect themselves in the same way.
Yes.
And in speaking to dismissing self and personal growth
Hmm.
through self-care, right? Part of taking care of yourself is also making sure that you're growing as an individual. And if
Yes.
you're not paying attention to that part, if you're not paying attention to those parts that make you uncomfortable, if you're not paying attention to those parts that make you human, then it's not self-care. You're kind of doing yourself a disservice. You're spoiling yourself in a way that places you into a situation in which you cannot have realistic conversations or realistic reactions to things. So it's important that we push ourselves. That's part of the work that needs to be done. We push ourselves to have those conversations, but then to also know that we make mistakes. People make mistakes. Making a mistake does not make you a mistake, right?
Hmm.
And so as we embrace that with one another, as we embrace one another, we have to be mindful of what comes with that, right? Because two things can be true at the same time, as you say so often. Two things can be true at the same time. So you can have the best intentions and still create an impact that is horrible for other people. And that requires conversations, that requires coming into community to find out what those solutions are. How do we align that and those intentions with the impact? And then how do we fortify what we need to do in the arts, what we need to do in community, what we need to do in education, to acknowledge that what we have is not working. It has not been working for a lot of people for a long time. This is the opportunity for us to be creative, right? David said, empower your creativity. This is the opportunity for us to be creative, for us to sit, for us to have those conversations in spaces that allow for those things, deliberately creating spaces that allow for those things, and then working together to have other people in those conversations with us as we start to change what happens. I think we said it before, there's no going back. No, there's no going back. There will be no going back to normal, right? Or whatever normal was before. In most cases, at this point, is unacceptable. So how do we take the new things that we've gained? How do we take the new information that we've gained and apply it in a way that makes tomorrow better? That makes next month better in some way, maybe not in every way. But what do we do to make the next day, the day after, the next hour, the next minute? What do we do to make this moment and the next moment better?
It's better
the word.
For the whole.
Yeah, for the whole.
Okay, not for a certain group. So it's just, it's important. It's important that we realize that I keep hearing people, I keep hearing the phrase, we're in this together. Are we really? Because if we are, let's get to work. You know what I mean? Like, if we really are, let's get down to the nit and the grit of it, and let's roll up our sleeves, you know, and get ready to get our hands dirty. Because nobody's saying that this is easy and that it's not going to take time. But there has to be a time commitment, you know, a true commitment to doing this. And I think the biggest part for me is making sure that the humanity, that we see the humanity in each other, that we see the thing that, I mean, that we all have the same necessary basic needs, air, water, food. I mean, those sorts of things. Sunlight, because we do need vitamin D. We're basically just walking plants. Sorry, I have walking plants. I'm sorry, I have to crack corny jokes because it helps me. I hope it's helping you. But anyway, I would also just say, remember to center people, center human beings, center yeah,
the pleasant and the unpleasant.
Yes, because we're never going to get to what's pleasant if we don't look at the unpleasant. You know, shoving it under a rug, that's been going on way too long, and it doesn't work. That rug is sky high right now. It is dirt mountain. Okay, I mean, the rug is sitting on top of a pile of dirt. We can see the dirt clearly. The rug looks like an ant now. So that's what I would say. And then I will also remember, I bring this up simply because of, the kind of work that I do, but remember that young people are watching. The kids are watching. Our children are watching how we interact with each other. I don't have children, but I have nieces and nephews that I adore. Okay. And I want to make sure whatever world that I leave behind, okay, that whatever path I'm forging, that it's a little easier on them than it was for me. And I get to talk to a number of teachers. I get to sometimes engage with parents, and kids see everything, y'all, good or bad, and they learn whatever is put in front of them. So what are we going to put in front of them? Is it hate? Is it love? Is it understanding? Okay. Is it deep listening? Is it connection? I mean, what is it going to be? And I think that's really, really important right now. And I know I probably sound like a commercial talking about, what about the children? But I'm being very serious. It's really serious. And I say that because I work with schools, and, and I talk to so many parents and grandparents who are just looking at things right now, and they're going, what kind of world are we leaving for our kids?
And then I also say, growing pains, right? That was some of the
Absolutely.
things that we're having to do. So as we are seeing, truly seeing, or at least having a more visual aid in looking at the ways in which we continue to divide ourselves, or in the ways in which we were already divided, now we just get to see it, if
Yeah.
you will, or in the ways that we are increasing in division because people are suddenly understanding that things are not okay and we have to do something about it. The growing pains, as I call them, and how we start to break free of systems that have continued to attempt to divide us. Well, not even attempt, that succeeded in dividing us, and how even now it seems like there is division. This is not a call for everybody to get along just to go along, or go along just to get
Go along,
along, or
get
be.
along. No, we don't do the go along, get along.
This is not a call for that, right? That's not a call to action. And that will not be my call to action, probably ever in life. But it is a call to look at historical context, look at how we got here,
Hmm.
look at what was being ignored on the way here, look at accountability and lack thereof into where we are now, and then again, do the work.
Yes.
We have that work to do. How do we make sure that we do not show up to the same place the exact same way again?
And I remember when Melissa Young was on here and she said, if you don't know what to do, go find somebody who does. Go
And
get
see,
some
and
help.
that helps create, conversations and
Yes.
connections, because now, in the vulnerability of admitting that I have no idea, can you assist me with this, or I would love to follow your lead on this. Those types of things in which you give yourself agency to learn. And it is difficult to learn. I remember my mom told me this I was young. It is difficult to learn when you think you know everything,
Yes.
or when you do not inquire about the things you've been told, the things you read, the narratives you've been given. When
Question the
you don't.
narrative.
Oh, how did that happen? Where did you get that from? What are we looking at when that happens?
Yes.
Not to dismiss when somebody brings you their lived experience. That is not the same thing. But as we are shaping our conversations, as we are shaping our views on what is most likely a limited experience, how do we expand our view to include the experiences of others
Yes.
while we still navigate our own identities? But how do we do that? And then how do we do that in a way that allows our field, the opera field, right? We are stewards of storytelling, grandiose storytelling, if you will. How do we allow that to inform our field as the opera field, or any other field, right? Any other field, education, health, you want to go into the other arts, museum, what we do with orchestra, what we do with dance, all these things. How do we allow ourselves to know that we are not enough by ourselves? I'm going to tell you that right now.
Yes. It's
And
true.
I know a lot of people, listen, you are enough. You are not enough for this.
Yes.
You are enough as you are as an individual, as in you have everything you need to grow. You are not enough to solve these problems on your own.
This
No one
has to
is.
be done together. It has to be done together. Like, and if there's one thing we know in the opera world is teamwork. Trying to put a show together is like the ultimate experience in teamwork. I always say it's a psychological phenomenon that should be studied because you have all these people from different backgrounds, different walks of life, different parts of the world, and we come together to put together a show. And then we do it beautifully. So we know how to get together and execute a common goal. This needs to be one of the goals. Righting some of the wrongs, correcting
Mm-hmm.
things that have been wrong for way too long. We know
Mm-hmm.
we can do it. Remember Mark Skorka saying, opera companies, we know how to be problem solvers. You know, we're used to doing it because we literally have everything, orchestra, visual arts. I mean, all of it is there. And so we're like, oh, we have that. Well, let's take those same types of that same energy, that same tool set, and that creativity that it takes for us to bring something to stage to bring about a change in the world, not just in the industry, in the world. It is very much needed right now. And we did a show that we dedicated to the artists, talking about being creative and playing. This is the time, because it's going to take creativity to solve these things. It's going to take deep listening. It's going to take being in the room with somebody who makes you uncomfortable, or who has a story that makes you uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Welcome.
And it's going to take the beautiful things that come out of that, right? It is
Yes.
going to take those beautiful moments that allow us to be in sync. It's going to take those beautiful moments that allow us to suddenly see others in a way that we have not seen them before, and in a way that allows us to see ourselves in a different way as well. And
Yeah.
there's beauty in that. There is sovereignty in that. There's
There's an
purpose in
art
that,
in that.
right?
There's
It
an art
is
in
the
that.
art. To be
It's the
honest, I say
art.
so often that opera itself is not. It's not the art, right? It's a vehicle. It's the storytelling. The moment that people connect with what you were doing is the art. The whole process is an art. There's an art to the process, but the moment your story reads across to someone else, the moment that what you're doing connects with something or someone else, for me, that's art.
That's the
That's
art.
what we are doing in this type of artwork or in this type of artistic endeavors. So it's important that we center that and know that there is work to do. There was work to do before this. If nothing else, now we know we really have work to do,
Mm-hmm.
and that work requires multiple levels. And it requires that individual level. Like we said, it requires that organizational level, the departmental level, institutional. There is work to be done,
Yes.
and you are not enough to do it by yourself. You don't have
Yes.
to. There's liberty, there's freedom in knowing that you can't do it by yourself. No matter
Yes.
who you are, no matter how long you've been working in the field, no matter how much experience you have, how many connections you have, you are not enough. We have inherited things, and we
Yes.
have, as I say, the honor, we have the responsibility to do the work now, so that as we gift what we have, whether it's good or bad, right? As we gift this to the next, to those who will come to, or to those who will follow, to those who will come after us, as we gift that, we have to make sure that it is better than what it is now, right? So
Yes.
how do we make this moment better? How do we make the next moment better? How do we make tomorrow better? That's the work that needs to be done.
Yes. And there has
I'm
to
off my.
be no, that's good. That's a good soapbox. You get nothing but snaps from me because it's the truth. And I think sometimes we get so caught up in the shock and stuff of it all, or we get so caught up in the frenzy of it all that it can take us away from what we are here to do.
Mm-hmm.
And it can take away from purpose, and it can take away from vision and mission and all of those things that drive us, our personal missions. Byron spoke very beautifully about this. From our personal missions, our organizational missions, all of these things. And I think right now, the biggest and best thing that we can do is that self-examination, because it starts with self, and then figure out
And
how
it
that
doesn't,
reflects in our organization
and
and
the
in
beautiful thing is
society.
that self-examination doesn't end with self, right? That's
No,
where it starts, but it
that's a
still takes
layer.
community. It
Yes,
still takes community in order to do proper self-examination,
talk
because
about
we
that,
have to
bro.
examine. We have to
Talk about
examine
that community.
how what we do extends to others and how what we do affects others.
Yes,
So as you said,
yes,
in that there's work to do, we have work to do. That is the real work. And that real work is creating a space within yourself for others. That real work is creating the ability to accept space for yourself within others. It
yes,
requires both. And in that, it is knowing that you yourself, by yourself, not enough. You yourself and your group, you yourself and your organization, not enough. We're seeing that now. If nothing else, we see that it's not enough and we have work to do. And when I say we, that means all of us collectively as a whole. We can say in this field, there's work to do, of course. There's work to do within our organizations, within our communities. Knowing that we cannot do it by ourselves, we should not, because no one can. And it's not fair for you to assume that you can. It is necessary for us to have these processes that extend beyond just ourselves. It is necessary for us to have connection that extends just beyond what it does for ourselves. And it is necessary for us to have humility that extends beyond just protecting ourselves.
exactly.
This is the real work, and we have work to do. So do it.
Yeah,
Stop tripping.
yeah.
Stop tripping. And then
And get
in
it done.
that,
Get it done.
stop tripping and get it done. And if that starts with just asking a question, and practicing having conversations with people, because a lot of times we don't really know how to talk to one another. And
No, oh
that's true.
God, do not know
That's
how to
true.
engage with each other, and it's like that's very strange for me because again, I grew up with I have the gift of gab, but
I would say,
I would also, but a lot of people will blame it on things like, well, people are too busy scrolling on their phones and all this kind of stuff. Man, I don't
hmm,
know what the root of it is. My point is this, because you can blame all the things that you want to blame, and we can toss blame on whatever the issue is. We can do that all day long. But the bottom line is what are we going to do now? How are
yeah.
we going to start having conversations with each other now? How to engage with each other now? Truly see each other now.
And in that, I would say not even just having conversations, right? Because how we have the conversations, that's the vehicle, right? So how we
Yeah.
get people into the house, how we connect with people, art is the vehicle. How we connect with each other, whether social media, those things, that's the vehicle. I am talking about deep communication. I am talking about hearing the question behind the question. I am
That's
talking
it.
about hearing the hurt, hearing the pain, hearing the fear behind the statement. I am talking about hearing the encouragement, hearing the acknowledgement behind the silence,
Yes.
behind the side, behind the ways in which we communicate both verbally and non-verbally.
So,
That
but
is what
basically,
that's the communication I'm talking about. I'm
yeah,
talking about hearing people. Truly,
past
truly
that
hearing
surface
people,
level, past that, yes,
and then
yeah,
being able to build on those things, and then to allow that connection, that way of communicating, to inform how we communicate with that individual person, of course, going forward, but then how we seek to communicate with others from there. I am talking about on a level that requires, again, that we give space and that we take space,
yes,
and that
yes,
knowing that those type of encounters, that type of engagement continues with us for the rest of our lives. I am talking about the communication that changes you, that
yes.
allows you and everybody around you to do the work, because that's what's necessary. I'm gonna go back to do the work.
Yeah,
Do the work,
it's
stop
done.
tripping. um and
Get it
then
done.
what it looks like to see not yourself in others, right? Not to be a narcissist, but what it looks like to see similar experiences in others. We are all individuals and none of us have the same life experiences. But what does it mean for me to hear that you're upset and you don't believe we should be doing these things? And what
Mhm.
does it mean for me to hear I want to matter?
That's it.
What does it mean for me to hear, to listen behind all the anger or whatever else you got going on over there,
Mhm.
to hear I want to make sure that I matter in this world?
That's it.
And then how knowing that I know I matter and know that I want to matter and that it's okay for people to want to matter, how do I then communicate with others? How do I have conversations with others? How do I show up in spaces with others? How do I accept that this is something that I can and should do? That you have to accept that it's not for everybody. How do I make sure that, okay, I see you. I see you. I hear you. You want to matter. Here are these things. Let's have a conversation about what it means to matter, how you feel, when you want to matter, and then how others may not have those same things,
Yep.
or ways that I have them and you do not, right? Let's have those honest conversations, and then let's find out what we need to do to make sure that we're on the same page and that is being acknowledged going forward. And that's just one example, but I am talking about the communication that goes beyond words. I am
Yes.
talking about the art that goes beyond words. I am talking about the connection in what we do and how we mean, or what we mean to our communities, what we mean to one another, that go beyond words. And it's a lot, right? That's a big call to action, but that is the
But
work
it's
that
one
needs to
that's
be done.
necessary. It's
Mm-hmm.
necessary. I
And it's
mean,
not going to be
no, and the thing is that it's gonna look and feel different. It's gonna look and feel different. This is something that has not truly been done before. What are we
and you
gonna?
said,
Yeah, just I mean, and we say all the time out here, be bold, be creative, and this is part of it.
mm-hmm.
It's gonna look and feel different. And the question is that are we gonna walk into this? and do this together, we're going to try to continue with the same mess because it didn't work. It didn't work. The stuff that was happening pre-pandemic, during the pandemic, civil unrest, all this kind of stuff, those methods did not work. So it's about time we try something new. But it has to start with centering humanity and then really seeing what that looks like. And that's that. And we're running up on our hour, so I just want to make sure that I'm keeping an eye on the time, y'all, because we've gotten booted off and been on our tangents. Instagram was like, that's an hour, you have to go.
Yep, you're done.
Yeah, you're done preaching to the and it was a good show that day too. But we're open to question, people. If you would like to ask us a question, please feel free. We always want to make sure that we answer your questions. I have not seen any yet. I've seen some hellos and that sort of thing, but I haven't seen any questions.
Hello to everyone.
Yes.
And those who are not live with us, because this will become available, hello to you as well.
Yes, hello. Thank you.
Feel free to reach out and share questions, those who are not watching live, because you are most likely not alone in your question or your thoughts or your experiences. We have the ability to share in our experiences with one another, and that allows us to, again, not feel so alone, but then to know that the ways in which we show up to spaces matter, and the ways that we request things of others and what we request of others in different spaces, those things matter. So we want to be mindful of that and encouraging people to engage in the ways that best suit you. So
yes, absolutely. I never want anybody to do anything that makes them feel funny. So I'm saying ask questions, and like it's coming across as demanding. But no, you're absolutely right. So please feel free to write to us instead, or private message or something like that as well. Well, since we're running up on an hour, I want to wrap us up. I think overall this episode we've had a lot of positive notes. A lot of things that we're talking about. We had talked about the necessity of rest. We talked about the necessity of centering humanity. We have talked about the fact that make sure that you are truly resting and not trying to just sit in your own comfort. There was work to do before. There's work to do now. There's work to do in the future. We know this. This is nothing new, and we will come to you with the same message. It's going to look and feel different. We've said that. And let me just put it bluntly, stop making excuses. Like, the excuses have to stop. I know there are reasons, and there are valid reasons for a lot of things, and I'm not taking anything away from that. But the excuses have to stop. I mean, and I'm gonna keep there because what I was about to say next might get me in a little trouble, but just please understand that don't do that, Quo. Don't.
Well, why'd you do it? Why'd you bring it up? Now I know.
Don't you get me in trouble on the live. Don't you get me in trouble. No, but I think that when we talk about and there's a humility in all of this. There's a humility that is needed in all of this to be able to do this, because like I said, it's going to be different. It's going to be different because we live in a world that would rather shout and yell and be mad than, like Quo said, look at the underlying cause, and what's the question or the need behind that anger. And I think I saw something the other day that said anger is the disguise for hurt and fear, and I was like, okay, I'll take it. Because it sounds right to me. I didn't like it because I was like, no, if I'm angry and I'm mad, I'm just mad. But
you're mad because you're disappointed. You're disappointed because you're upset. You're upset because you are afraid that what you thought.
I didn't need some mean psychoanalyzing me and calling me out in my face like that, though.
But see, it's an opportunity to grow. See, that's just
no, and I did, and I took it on the chin, and I went on because I was like, "This is absolutely right," and and this person happened to be a psychologist, so I was like, "You're absolutely right." I'm not going to sit up here and tell you what that you're wrong, because when I really looked, I said, "Yes, it is." So anyway, blabbing before we get cut short here, and because Instagram will do it. Um, like I said, please feel free to reach out to us with any questions. But I would encourage you to take care of yourself during this time. Um, drink your water, like I said. Take your vitamins, whatever it is that you do. Ride your bike, whatever it is you do to maintain some self care and taking care of yourselves and your families right now. And friends, please, together. And there's really a togetherness that is really needed right now. But I refuse to have a togetherness that is rooted in people being silent,
Yep, silencing others. Yeah.
silence others who are hurting. So that go along to get along. There was an old preacher that used to say that as well, and he was right. So, Quo, positive notes. Let's give him some positive notes.
Positive notes. I would say in positive notes, again, we talked about it during the episode. Know that you are enough and that you have everything you need to grow, to connect with others. Know that you are not enough to solve this on your own. And there is freedom in that, right? Because that requires that you reach out. That requires that you accept when others reach out to you. That also requires self-examination in doing the work. I would say that positive notes also include, we're in a time right now where we get to truly look at what we're doing, who we are. Ask those questions, give yourself grace, but be accountable for truly seeking those answers, knowing that those are lifelong journeys.
Mm-hmm.
Make that journey worth it, right? And then work to make this moment, the next moment, tomorrow, next month, whatever that means, better than it is now, than it was before. We see truths. We see the top layers of truths, I will say. And
2020 vision, huh?
we see the top layers of the truths, and we have the ability to go so much deeper than that, so that as we continue in this work and as we continue in our journeys, as we continue to connect to communities, to build through art, it matters, right? Know that you matter, others matter, and how we engage with others also helps build who we are. And then know that as we do this work, you don't have to do it alone, but be willing to ask the tough questions, and then be willing to do the work, because we're willing to do the work. We're doing it. We'll do it with you, of course. And then as we extend that into those who will do the work after us, being mindful of what we give to others and then how we take from others. So those are my positive notes. Stop tripping. That's also one of my positive notes. Yes. And it's okay to stop tripping. It's something positive and like, you know what, I was tripping, I'm gonna stop. It's completely okay to do that.
Stop tripping. Like that really is, that's what it boils down to. Stop tripping, And I would also add, really truly try to see each other through the muck and the frenzy right now.
Deep, right? Ask those questions and then look at that deep listening. Practice that. Hear what is happening behind what someone is giving you or what someone is doing. See it, and then see it for yourself in your actions as well. Because I promise you, when you truly look at it, whether people are willing to do something about it or not, when you truly look at it, you will see such a reflection of yourself in a way that is so beautiful that it defines the way that you engage with others going forward. So, yeah.
Positive notes. Thank you, Quo. And as for me, folks, you've gotten your calls to action today. Do the work.
Do the work.
Do the work. Rest when you need it, but you must do the work. And there are times we have to press our way through. And this is one of those times. So I would say, just be encouraged, be bold, continue to be creative, be innovative, and walk in that boldness. You're going to have to walk in that boldness, particularly at a time such as this. And walk in that boldness when you have the tough conversations and you're asking the tough questions and you're doing the self-reflections. Be bold. Now is not the time to sit somewhere and hide. It's not the time.
And even then, bold doesn't mean aggressive, right?
Exactly.
Even in
that's
bold,
what I'm going right now. Bold does not mean, I didn't say go tearing nothing up.
Or you do you, but
but I mean, if that's your business, if you do, it's not my.
It's like the Dallas Opera does not But
Exactly.
Quo
I'm not
said,
no, not at all. No way. But it's not my business. But I would encourage somebody that's looking on to something like that. Ask why.
mm-hmm.
Okay. Look deeply and ask why. Remember, look at the why behind the action. Remember, always. And also, keep tuning in and watching us. We see the love, we feel the love, and we appreciate you. We hope that we have said some things today that are helpful at a time such as this. And with that, we are out of here. Unless somebody has
We're
questions.
out of here. Yeah, no, we're
We
out of
good?
here.
Okay. Nobody?
Yeah, yeah. It's fine. Send them in.
Fine.
We'll probably do an episode where we answer all the questions we've received. So
Yeah.
just go
But
ahead
anytime
and
we get
feel
any
free
questions, we can do that.
to send those in. Completely
Yeah.
okay.
All right. So we're done
All right.
messing around with you today. Thank you. Thank you all so much. At this point, I'm just babbling and making myself. But thank you all for joining us. Take care of yourselves. And like I said, if you have questions and want to write to us, please feel free to do so. Yeah, and we will see you the next time around. Peace.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Bye.